I love to see the towns passing by and to ride these rails neath God's blue sky. Let me travel this land from the mountains to the sea, 'cause that's the life I believe He meant for me. And when I'm gone and at my grave you stand, say God called home your rambling man.
Welcome to Ramblin' Man Podcast, episode number 60. This one is with the folks behind Hellcats. Hellcats is a paper goods, accessories, and apparel brand online. This is with Brittany Reagan and Clark Orr. I kind of talked to them about how they got their start and what it means to create an online brand. It's a good talk. They're doing good things down in Orlando. Our sponsor this week is Inskip Grill. Inskip Grill is home of the Knoxville Big Burger. You can find them in North Knoxville, in the Inskip area itself, but you can also find them online at inskipgrill.com. Be sure to follow them on Instagram and Facebook, both of them at Inskip Grill, to see what their weekly or new and interesting burgers are. We appreciate them sponsoring the podcast. Without much further ado, here's the episode. They were drunk. I was boiling hot. My HVAC had went out. It was July. It was 86 degrees in my house.
Oh, no.
And I was going to kill them for being drunk and being stupid. So
being drunk and hot sound terrible.
Yeah.
It's like a terrible combo.
They both said AC/DC sucked, and I couldn't
throw them out right then.
I couldn't, and they're like, you can't name 5 good AC/DC songs. And I went blank because I was like, they're all good. I don't know where to start. They're like, see, I got you. It's like, no, you didn't get me.
You Shook Me All Night Long, Thunderstruck, Back in Black, For Whom the Bell Tolls. Oh, wait, no.
Hell's Bells.
Hell's Bells. Yikes. Hello.
There's the first
Highway to Hell. I know, right? You can see where I got mixed up there.
Yeah.
Highway to Hell. I named 5.
Yeah, that was fine. Good job.
I think my thought was
Dirty Deeds.
Do you want me to name?
I just named all the singles, but
Brian Johnson, or do you want me to name? God, now why am I blanking on? Hold on, let me get more coffee. The one who passed away.
Yeah, that's a weird name, right?
Yes, and I'm going to edit all this out to be like.
We're gonna think about it after the podcast ends.
But yeah, they thought AC/DC sucked, so that. And they were drunk, so that made me angry.
Didn't go well.
Okay, so you're a designer.
I'm not a designer.
And you're the online marketing guru.
Yeah.
He pointed at me. I'm Clark, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can't see points in the radio.
I do everything running the business but design.
Okay. Do you come up with ideas for...
Mm-hmm, yeah, we'll work
That's
together
what I
on
figured.
concepts. So
I hear that from Draplin and Leah.
Oh, yeah.
To where she came out with her own line now.
Mm-hmm. She got notes to self.
Yeah, and all that, which is really cool. And I see field notes. I saw field notes earlier, so
yeah.
Always.
We sell a field notes wallet, like a leather wallet.
Yeah.
Or we don't have any right now. We're sold out. But yeah, they're good friends of ours. Saw them a couple weeks ago.
I tried to visit them in Chicago, and they were closed. And it was after they were supposed to be open. And I started banging on the door pretty hard. Like, damn it. It's my last day in Chicago, and I'm just trying to, come outside.
That office is crazy. It's like, it looks like I don't know, remember it was like open? It was like an open concept.
Yeah, it's very cool.
It looks like it was an old jail or something like that, because it's like a square ring with like offices on the outer rings, and then on the inside it's just like massive and open, and just really cool and inspiring.
That's wild. So what got you, Clark? I'm not going to say your name. I'm going to just point because
Yeah.
I always like making fun of. This is great for an audio podcast.
Right. Yeah.
So what got you into design?
I mean, the short way to get there is my dad's a sign painter, so I grew up in a sign shop my whole life.
Yeah.
So I was around graphics, I was around layouts and logos and lettering. But it was just kind of like summer work for me, or I worked not during the summer too, but like it was just kind of work, and I never equated that to a career that I would want.
Okay.
And then as I got into late middle school, early high school, I started getting into like punk rock and hardcore and metal. And then I started going to shows and seeing posters, screen printed posters, and band merch and stuff. And I really kind of connected the idea of there's someone out there that makes this art for these bands, and I can't be in a band even though I want to. So it was a way to put myself in the scene, the punk scene, or at least like be a part of it or give to it in a way that didn't involve making music. I didn't have friends that really played any music, so it was kind of my way of tapping what I could do. I had the programs at my house because my dad had the computer. So then I started taking a design class in high school, and then straight away started freelancing. So I started making money when I was like 16 or 17. And that was back in the early 2000s. So 2000, I think I started. So I've been doing it for coming on 20 years, which is crazy. So
let's see. I am at 28 years this year in October.
Yeah.
I've been doing it since I was 13 years old.
That's awesome.
In high school, in our high school, there were only 2 computers in the end. I go to speak. I go back to my school and speak, and I go and speak to other like elementary schools and stuff to talk about art and making. You can make a living in art.
Yeah,
it's kind of the thing. And I always say there were 2 computers in my entire school. One in the print shop. One in drafting. Is a vocational school, so there was woodworking, upholstery, auto mechanics, electrical, drafting, photography, and graphic arts, which was printing.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to work in computers, so this is how I start. And one of our the other thing that makes them laugh is one of our biggest clients was a pager company called Volcom. So anytime I see kids in Volcom shirts, it's like, that's a pager company from Knoxville, Tennessee.
They're like, what's a pager?
Yeah. Oh man, so I already wrote it. What do you consider punk? I'm curious.
I mean, for sure it's an attitude before kind of anything, but obviously from that it's when I think of punk, I immediately think of music, but obviously it was a movement that some would argue exists to this day. Some would argue it doesn't.
That's why I was curious. Like, what bands do you think were your bands when it came to punk?
Yeah. I mean, in high school, for sure, Strike Anywhere from Richmond, Virginia was one of my favorite bands. Further back, I mean, I love, Rancid, like Out Comes the Wolf.
Yeah.
Out Come the Wolves. But I think for me, it was that time I think back to, it wasn't even just band. I could rattle off all these bands I liked, right?
Yeah.
But, for me, it was a way. I for the first time I realized that I was a fairly unique person in my high school. That I sought out music that other people didn't.
Okay.
So when I think of punk, and I think of when I started, I think of like this individualism that you gain.
Okay.
In your whatever it is, whether it's music or like your own identity. When I started. Getting into art and design, all those things coalesced. It was like, I consider myself somewhat of an artist. Now I consider myself a skateboarder, whatever, like quote unquote countercultural thing I thought that I was doing in the late 90s, early 2000s. It's all wrapped up. Punk and all that stuff was all wrapped up in becoming an individual that didn't listen to the classic rock bands my dad played on the radio in the sign shop. It was me finding, I love this metal band that no one in my high school has heard of. Yeah. So it was a way of me feeling like I had a unique perspective on life when probably that was just my thing. Everybody else had something else. So,
or they were into the same thing. They just didn't wear it on their sleeves.
Yeah, exactly. They just weren't as corny as I was. Yeah. And like they're like, yeah, we know who's striking or whatever the band was.
Reason why I say, so I was curious if Green Day fit in there for you, because by the time they were a little past a little bit.
Yeah, if I wanted to go further back, because Dookie came out in 93, 94, something like that.
Yeah, 93, 94.
I remember when that record came out. My best friend's older brother had that record.
Yeah.
He had Soundgarden, Super Unknown, around the same time. Beastie Boys, Ill Communication, maybe I think it was around that same time. So I was, it was my first kind of taste of all that stuff, but I didn't. Those weren't bands that I found out about.
Yeah.
I leaned early into like, as a youngster, the music that my dad liked. I liked the Beatles, and I liked Leonard Skinner and
Tony Orlando and Dawn. And
what's that?
Tony Orlando and Dawn. You don't tie it? Never mind.
Wait, what's that?
Tony Orlando and Dawn is this cheesy tie yellow ribbon around the old.
Oh yeah. I know Tony Orlando. I didn't know the
he had backup band members named Dawn.
Yeah. Well, was Tony Orlando in the Four Seasons, or is that Frankie Valli?
Frankie Valli.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, podcast world. I'm not that.
No, we'll cut all that out.
Yeah. But I was into all the Smokey Robinson and Motown stuff that my dad played when I was younger, and I held on to that stuff for a really long time. So I did know about obviously Nirvana and Pearl Jam and all these like bands that were like MTV big, and then like Sublime got big, and whatever. Music that I probably wasn't allowed to listen to, but I treat those things very different in my mind than the things that I sought out on my own, and was like, I'm going to look in the liner notes of the CD to see who the band thinks, look at the band shirt, the photo of the band, see what band shirts they're wearing, of a band I've never heard of, and then go track that down. So, I think that age for most kids is like a really important time, and obviously in finding out who you're becoming. It was just different back then because the internet was kind of budding, and you couldn't just listen to music like you can now. So the kids these days are spoiled, but
for me, because I go back before the internet. The only cool thing, I saw Green Day in a tiny club on the Kerplunk tour.
Oh wow, yeah.
Them and Operation Ivy.
Yeah.
Because Relapse No, it's not Relapse. I'm trying to remember the name of whatever that Lookout Records.
Lookout, yeah.
The venue in town was big. She was big friends with the people who ran Lookout.
Oh yeah.
So we would get see. I'm sure there are ones that God knows who they are, that they're amazing, that I saw them and I have no memory.
Yeah.
For me, finding my own, they used to have a wall at the record store that was all singles. So if I saw something on Rap City or MTV, I'd buy the single, and if I liked the B-side, I'd buy the album.
Oh, yeah.
So I actually skipped school to go buy Wu-Tang's first album.
Oh, really?
Came out.
That's awesome.
That's the weirdest, I think the weirdest one.
Which I came out in 96, 95, 96.
I think it may have been 94. It was before, when I was still in school, because I graduated in 96. So I think it's, right before, maybe 95.
Somewhere on there.
Somewhere in there. I don't know.
I like how we're music Wikipedia right now.
Yeah. I haven't made this joke in a while. I have an editor named Kurt. I don't really have an editor named Kurt, but every once in a while I'll say, Kurt, cut that out.
Nice.
And, so what were you like? Were you defined in high school, or were you still finding your way?
I don't know. I feel like I was always a floater. In high school is how I described myself. I didn't do high school like a normal person. School and me weren't really friends, so I didn't.
That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So I feel like I don't have like a lot of influences that I remember from like being in like regular high school. I just kind of.
More the getting out is your focus.
Yes, that was my goal, is to leave school.
and she did.
Are you all both from here?
We're from like an hour to 30 minutes outside of Orlando.
Okay.
That's where we grew up.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're not Orlando natives, but not far out.
Central Florida.
Central Florida natives.
In the sprawl. Somewhere in the sprawl.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh man, so y'all are native Floridians, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's where
your eyes went up on that.
We're rare.
Oh, yeah.
We're rare. Like most people move here.
Yeah.
You know, that's why we're such like a international state, because people all travel from all over. Want to get away from the snow and move here. I'm the only member of my entire family that was born in Florida, except for Clark. His family go a few generations back, which is pretty rare.
Dad's side. And my mom's from Kentucky, so.
Oh, which part of Kentucky?
Central Kentucky.
Okay. I always have to ask because my grandmother's side is from southeastern Kentucky, which is London, Corbin, Hazard County.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Nibrock. Any Corbin folks would know what I'm talking about. Anyway.
Midrock?
Nibrock. It's a festival they have there.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Corbin. It's Corbin spelled backwards.
Oh.
But it's like a deep one person on the podcast from Corbin. They're like, I know what that is.
My dad probably knows what that is. I
mean, Hazard's like, the thing is, like, my family's not from Hazard, but like I grew up going camping in my grandparents' hometown, which is Greenwood, Kentucky, in central.
Oh, yeah.
Central Kentucky, and it's like an old coal mining town. It's barely inhabited now. But we got some. I think maybe the term is hillbilly.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Oh my
got
God.
A little bit of that.
I've got a friend from Cave City, Kentucky. Do you know Cave City?
I don't think so.
They have a hotel that is all teepees. You all might like that. Like,
nice.
it's kind of crazy, and it's on all their like postcards and stuff. Come see Cave City, and it's the hotel.
Yeah,
that's the big thing in Cave City.
It's awesome. Whenever I go up, I think of like being a Floridian like this. I used to go up to Boston and work all the time. And people up there would be like, man, you got such a southern drawl. Yeah. No one down here would ever say that I have a southern drawl,
I can't hear my accent because there are parts around in East Tennessee that I always joke, I need subtitles.
Totally.
To understand that those guys are like, I'll go around. They sound like Boomhauer.
I haven't heard you change your accent.
Oh, thanks. I'm going to throw them out.
Kirk, edit that out.
Nice. But I can turn it on, and I got into an incident in New York one time where a homeless guy came up, and he was almost as big as me.
Yeah.
And he just got in my face and and I just leaned in and I said, Bubba, I reckon we're fixing to have a problem. And he patted me on the chest and walked away. Wow. Like, I terrified the hell out of it. And I've also, maybe I should be ashamed of this. There have been times in restaurants where it's an attractive woman like, how you doing today, ma'am? You doing good today? Just laying, and I've seen some go, oh. It's like, yeah, hi, that's me. Okay, so your main focus is get the hell out of high school.
Yeah.
Since you all lived outside of Orlando, was like Orlando a destination, or did you kind of not really want to know where you were going to end up?
It was for my family, because where I grew up in Lake Mary, Florida, which is just a very suburban, very white city. There's not a lot to do there, so we would come into Orlando, and there was an area that was popping in the 90s in downtown Church Street Station, which is still there, but it used to have a lot of different fun activities, so we would go there a lot. We'd go to Lake Eola, which is kind of like the iconic center of Orlando, where we have there's just tons of swans out there, and we would go have picnics out there and feed the birds. So that was my childhood coming out here, because there was nothing to do where I lived. But Clark didn't really ever, he was more separated from Orlando than I was.
Yeah, the town I grew up in, DeLand, is between Orlando and Daytona Beach. So we would spend more time in Daytona Beach, more like beachside things, just because it was, a little more difficult to get over here. Or the distance is greater to get from my hometown to Orlando. So we would come out here some, but like not a ton. It's funny looking back on it now, living in Orlando and not fully appreciating it being in our backyard the same way as maybe someone who lived a little closer. I would like to probably like the the cinematic way to say it is I grew up in the shadow of Daytona 500. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with the International Speedway right there. But if we wanted to go to Disney, it would take over an hour to get there.
Has road construction always been a pain here in Orlando?
You're catching at a pretty crazy time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think even last August when we came through, it was just stopped through half of it. And then when I came down, I was like, this is kind of... And Knoxville's a pretty bad construction area, but good Lord.
Yeah. It's like an eight-year-long project that they're working on over here.
Wow. Okay.
It's all Disney's fault.
They shouldn't have bought Marvel. That's the whole problem. They got to... Okay. This is going to be... Well, it's rambling. It's a very abstract question. Maybe I need to figure that... How would you describe Orlando? Like, is there... Because I know there's places like Little Rock, Arkansas, and Dallas, are these cities that are kind of a little mired in the past, but they have cool, like, arts districts on the edge. Mm. Here we're sitting in Winter Park, which is... Is that technically like a subdivision of Orlando?
Yeah, it's a suburb of Orlando. Okay. It's basically the next city after Orlando.
Okay.
That gets into the suburbs.
Okay.
Like wealthy communities over here.
How would you describe it?
I love describing Orlando because I think Orlando is in the shadow of Disney. So we're very misunderstood city. So we're a little bit of the underdogs where I always compare us to Nashville, where if you go to Nashville and you want to go do touristy Nashville things, you want to go to the honky tonks or Country Music Hall of Fame, but then you Google, where should I go eat? You're probably going to stumble into a cool neighborhood that you didn't know existed. Yeah. But for us, if you're going to Disney and you want to Google a good place to go eat, it's not going to bring you to the cool places. It's going to bring you to all of the tourist stuff that's surrounded by Disney. So I think a lot of people miss what we actually have here. And there's a really cool creative community here. And every local businesses here, if you have a local business, it's almost like you're initiated into a club and everyone's just very supportive. And it's been fun with us starting Hellcats that we've been able to kind of be a part of the growth here. And we've been living here, well, I guess I've been living in Orlando proper for the last 6 years. And it's crazy the growth that we've had. We've become kind of a foodie city. And then now I think the creative and retail community is the next thing to rise up. What would you say, Clark?
Yeah, Orlando has an identity crisis for sure because of the parks, Universal, Disney. I mean, there's SeaWorld. There's so many parks. There's so many kind of sides to it. It's almost like, I was just thinking about it right now. It's like, have you ever seen someone try and solve a Rubik's Cube and they have 3 sides kind of solved?
Oh, yeah.
But so you look at it, you're like, oh, the thing's solved. And then you look on the other side, it's like, oh, it's not really solved.
Yeah.
Orlando's sort of like that because if you come here and you only know where to go, you're seeing just this very one-dimensional side to it. And it's sort of depressing depending where you're at. You get to a certain side of Disney and it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get that view. But like Brittany's saying is you kind of turn it on its side and you're like, oh, I'm in, this area in College Park, or I'm in, on Corinne or something. And you see certain little pockets just have really cool things going on in a really concentrated way that we're proud of. But, as we're getting older, we're appreciating things like Disney and Universal. Yeah. We're going to the cool restaurants at Epcot and,
yeah, we have a love-hate relationship with Disney. We like taking advantage of it, but we hate that when we're traveling and people are like, where are you from? Oh, Orlando. Oh, I love Disney. Or there's so much to Orlando than that. And we're pretty far removed from it where we live. We're Orlando proper, the heart of Orlando is 30 minutes, 25 minutes away with no traffic from Disney. But most of the time it's going to take you probably 45 minutes to get there from our house. So we're not surrounded by the tourist stuff.
Oh, okay.
So it is disappointing when people come here to go to Disney and then they leave, and it's just like, you didn't really come to Orlando, which I always like to let people know. The common misconception is that Disney isn't actually in Orlando. It's so big. I think it stretches into 2 cities. It's in Lake Buena Vista, Florida.
Well, that's like a lot of airports where it'll say, this is the Knoxville airport, and it's in Alcoa.
Right, yeah.
Which is in a whole nother county, which is funny to me. It's like, well, that's not really the Knoxville airport. You sound like me describing Tennessee, because whenever I say I'm from Tennessee, they're like, oh, I know Nashville. I'm like 230 miles away.
Yeah.
It's like Tennessee is like California on its side, because you have Memphis, Nashville, Knoxville, and Chattanooga, and all 4 of them are completely different.
Yeah, totally.
Completely different. And almost like San Francisco versus Los Angeles versus San Diego.
Right, yeah.
Like but I can't tell you how many people will automatically associate, same thing, like Orlando with Disney and Tennessee with Nashville or Memphis, or it's never Chattanooga or Knoxville. Chattanooga or Knoxville. So we always buckle against Nashville because it's like, we're not Nashville. But a lot of people are like, thank God we're not Nashville. Knoxville is, we're talking earlier, it's kind of weird in that it used to be that I could sit at a table and not one person would be from the town, because they all went to UT or came in for work and then just stayed afterwards. So, but now it's getting to be a little bit of more of a, I'm from Knoxville. But some of them are like, but where are you really from? It's like, or they'll say, I've been here 5 years and it's changed so much. It's like, you're out of your damn mind. It's like, you have no idea how much it's changed. The same thing up there. It's, the guy was in here earlier and talking about foodie. I was like, oh, you need to go to these 2 places. And those are 2 places that if you search for, you would never find those 2 places.
Yeah.
And they're 2 of the best restaurants in town. Because everybody's going to want to go to downtown where the Beard Award winning, the Michelin star people are.
Yeah.
And then I was like, nah, go to this place where you can only fit 18 people inside and you'll smell like grease when you leave.
Yeah, that's the best.
That's
right down that place road. And whenever we travel a lot, and we always like search out those places ourselves. Brittany has a blog where whenever we travel, she'll we'll go to, what's one of the last ones you did?
I love doing, because on the weekends we like to go on little day trips. And especially because before we had our studio, we were working from home, and so I just get cabin fever so fast and I need to get out. So we'll go do little day trips around Florida, that because there's so many fun little pockets of like weird towns, and so I compile different day trips as well as like other trips that we take. But I think one of the last ones I did was for Casadega.
Oh, okay.
In De Leon Springs.
Like you look at, like we went to Savannah maybe like a year ago.
Savannah's a cool town.
If you go there like a year from now, like there's gonna be a whole neighborhood of restaurants or shops. And last time we were there, we thought we knew everything, and this bartender was like, let me give you the details. And gave us a whole list of places to check out. Of course, that was the last day that we were there. Yeah. But now we have like a whole list of stuff to check out. But yeah, I feel like one of the things that we really connected on is we're 2 people who like to search things out for ourselves, or look, like what's the more difficult kind of thing to do versus the thing that's
like
just
a
kind
local
of
experience.
Yeah.
I want to go where the locals
So
go.
what I would do, because I'm in East Tennessee, I would just head one of the ways out of town and go 4 hours.
Yeah.
And just find something 4 hours away, explore that city. Because it would always be some small mountain town in North Carolina or up in Dandridge or Bristol or something, to which Dandridge is not 4 hours away. Kirk, cut that out before somebody corrects me. But you find these little tiny old downtowns, have like an antique store or a little pastry shop or something. And it's kind of nuts. But yeah, you can go 4 hours in any direction and find something interesting.
By the way, those are my 2 favorite categories: is antique shops and
pastry
shops.
Well, I was thinking of this small town in Kentucky that I need to go back and take pictures, because they literally had a flood wall with a giant gate that closed in the downtown, so it didn't get flooded. And I just looked, I was like, this looks like something out of Stephen King or something. Like, is this one will come when the zombie apocalypse happens. And they had this crazy
that's
great.
where it starts.
Yeah. Yeah. They had this crazy great pastry shop that I wanted to buy everything. And they had a cigar shop that was in a old courthouse that was like an office building, to where the secretary and the law firm had to go upstairs and unlock the cigar shop for me. And I was like, what in the hell am I? Are y'all going to
roll up their carpet tonight?
Yeah. But yeah, I tell you one to look for that. There's a road down here called the Dixie Highway. Mm-hmm. It's the world's oldest highway, or this country's oldest highway before Route 66. Oh, wow. And there's a woman I know that was mapping out how it went, and that's how I found some of these small towns. Oh, cool. But one time she drove from Knoxville to Miami just using Dixie Highway. It goes from like Miami to Michigan.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I love exploring and finding more weird little towns that I never knew existed, because we've explored Central Florida a lot from like coast to coast, but North Florida and South Florida I'm wanting to explore more.
I've been to Naples, Florida, and that is a weird ass town. Like
I don't think I've ever been to Naples.
Super lot of money and a lot of poverty, and the poverty just kind of gets swept under the rug a little bit.
Welcome to America.
Yeah. But it's also like we found some diner that we ate at that was like, holy crap. We did that in the morning for breakfast. Then we went to this really highfalutin dinner to where I had this piece of fish that had been soaking in butter for 72 hours. It's like, I love this. Why does this cost $65?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's great.
But yeah, and Florida it's so different. Like Miami and Fort Lauderdale are totally different from Tallahassee.
We were just talking about this with a friend. It's like you can really cut Florida in 3 chunks. It's North Florida, and then Central Florida and South Florida are all very different from the next. Even within those areas, coastal cities are way different than like the inland cities.
Yeah.
So it really depends on where you're going. So if you're like very familiar with one area in Florida, you don't really know all of Florida, because it's so different from being in the city to then getting out into the suburbs or to like the country, like little small towns, to coastal cities. It's all very different.
Well, and you even look like 45 minutes apart between Jacksonville and St. Augustine.
It's a huge
and they could not be any more different.
Totally.
Yeah, like getting an hour outside of Orlando changes so much.
The cliche that I say, I feel like I say it like once a week, is like the further north you are, further north you go, the further south you are.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Yeah, Panhandle, very
North
southern.
Florida is like southern Georgia. Miami is Cuba. You know,
and then Central Florida is just so many different cultures all mixed.
That is the thing, you know, we could have touched on earlier about like Orlando is, you know, I say this is like when you get off, which our airport is one of the biggest airports in the world, the busiest airports in the world, or in the U.S. rather. You get off that thing, you're going to hear like 10 different languages, you know, like just right away, you're instantly thrown into so many different cultures, which is really cool. But you go too far outside of Orlando, you go 20 minutes outside of Orlando, and you see like the divide of like where the culture ends. You know?
Even coming up this road, it was interesting. Like there's one house I noticed on the right that I was like, man, that's gorgeous. Mm-hmm. That kind of looks like a little mid-modi, but it looks modern mid-mod or something. And then I turned to the left, and there was a house with literally duct tape on the windows.
This area especially.
I was like, holy crap. The stones are away from one another.
This is like a historically black neighborhood that we're in, and the gentrification, like over probably the last 10 to 20 years is pretty astounding and
that's
sad, I guess.
Starting to happen in Knoxville, because I grew up on the black side of the city and went to a predominantly black school, and now I'm seeing a lot of developers that are white developers move in and be like, well, we want to make everything over here better. And I'm like, no, you don't. You want to buy cheap and sell high. That's exactly what you want to do. Yeah. Before I forget, if you ever want to visit Knoxville, I
feel like you're really selling it.
I am the biggest fan of my city.
That's awesome.
Keep that I love my city. I think now Allegiant flies from Knoxville to Orlando, and you can get a ticket for like $25 or something. Like, it's one way, but it's stupid cheap now, to where Like, where's it? I think Denver. Like, they just opened up like 20 new Allegiant flights from Knoxville to, because like if I want to fly to Seattle, it's like almost $1,000. If I want to fly to the UK, it's $1,200. Like, that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But I think they've opened it now to where my friends are like, okay, now you need to come to Denver because you can get a cheap flight and come on out. So if y'all ever want to come up to Knoxville.
I love Tennessee. So.
Yeah, Tennessee's great.
Oh, man, if you rented a car and went to especially like Western North Carolina is really nice. But anywhere in East Tennessee, it's going to be, there's a friend of mine that's from California, gay man, love him to death, but I was like, dude, you're not gay. You're California. You got frosted tips. You got like an 8-pack. You don't have a 6-pack. Like, you're awesome. Like, you make me sad that I'm eating more ice cream. Like, I love you to death. And he was there, and he was like, man, I went to he's like, I made a mistake. I went down to Loudoun County, and that's a rural. And he was like, and I was wearing a pink cutoff shirt that said, I love boys. I was like, and I was like, well, is anybody mean to you? And he's like, no. He's like, I just went back there, didn't realize, looked down, went, shit. Put the beer over the shirt and walked up front. And it's like, I guarantee you, the minute that door closed, they all went, bless his heart. He don't know where he's at. Yeah. It's like, yeah, they're not going to be mean to you. They're going to talk about you after you leave. But it was, I was like, God love you, man.
Yeah, good for
him. He
was
terrified to come to Knoxville, to East Tennessee. He was like, I'm going to get hurt and all this. And I'm like, no, it's very progressive. I always joke, blue in a sea of red.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
It is interesting. Like, I think the country, we just see a different vibe of like what things are like from, I don't know, all the media and just all we're surrounded by is just like heads butting like on every side. I think people are a little more loving than what we portray ourselves to be or see ourselves portrayed to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's some awful people who, would not think that kindly of your friend. Yeah. But I do think that people have the tendency to be more gracious than we are portrayed, or at least maybe that's my blind hope. But
well, I always look at like when a major catastrophe happens. There was it Hurricane George that hit Texas a few years ago, and they were talking about the lines to donate blood were like going around the building. I was like, and I looked at them, and I'm going to assume political affiliation. But I was like, I wonder how many of them voted for Trump, and yet they're all the first ones standing. I was like, you dumb, like. It was just one of those. I was like, "This is how you should be. Like, you should be this person, man. Be this person.
Yeah,
you have it. You have it in you. You have that capability."
Yeah, yeah. It was interesting after Pulse happened here in Orlando.
Oh yeah,
seeing the shift. I mean, at least I feel like it is people who like were maybe had a belief system that was like, accepting or loving or caring, but not vocal. I think there was a little bit more of a shift after Pulse happened, where it's like, you know what, we're tired of like this divide. Yeah. So we're gonna. I don't know. I think after that happened, you saw a lot of rainbow flags come out that are like still up. Yeah. That those people probably would have been scared maybe like the year before Pulse.
Yeah, I think it created like almost a pride in that, like, don't mess with our people. And even if you're not a part of the gay community, we're like, these are our gays, you can't mess with them. And wanting to show everyone like, hey, our business is a safe space, and we love you, which is nice.
There's a bakery up there that they had a flag up during Pride Month, and some lady came in there, got pissed off, and wrote a negative review on Facebook. And I just laughed because I was like, oh, I can't wait to see how this plays out. Yeah. And it was like her thing had like 100 comments like, you're an idiot. Yeah. And then there were like 200 reviews of going, no, that's why I like going in there, because I know I'm safe. I know they support me.
Yeah, like, that's why we have a little gay pride flag in here, because we want people to know we're a safe space.
There's actually, I'm part.
Oh.
Who's that?
Hola.
Was that Andy? Oh. Hey, you can come hang. Just be quiet. No riffraff.
I will leave.
This is Andy. Welcome. This is our son.
I'm Jody. Nice to meet you.
I thought it was a customer. I was like, wow, today is a random busy day with customers coming in.
Oh.
He's our part-time employee son, jack of all trades. He's gonna go. No, we're good.
We're good now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hi,
Nice
bye.
to meet you. Hi.
Edit that out, Kirk.
Yeah, all of that out.
I'm just kidding. You keep it in.
What's funny is watching people come in and just whip into the park. I was like, good God, man.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's this group that was started by three friends that's called Keep Knox Queer, that they are like, I'm supposed to be doing their branding for them, but I can't get them to be, of course, working with friends.
Yeah.
Get them to where they were wanting to develop some kind of logo or branding of a sticker that they could put in windows of businesses.
Oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
To do that. And I was like, yeah, we can do that. It's like, but y'all all got to get together and tell me what you
Land
want.
on the name first.
Yeah. Oh, they got the name. It's the logo that
Yeah,
they're just
okay.
like, one of them's like, well, I like this. And should we incorporate the rainbow? Should we not incorporate? I was like, y'all are killing me. Just whenever you finish, just let me know. And I'll doodle something for you.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, so we've got you out of high school. I'm going to assume, you went to college for graphic design?
I did, yeah.
Did you stay in Florida or did you go somewhere else?
Yeah, I actually went up to UNF
Okay.
in Jacksonville. So
Okay.
I went and got my AA in Daytona Beach. So I was there for 2 years and went to Jacksonville. I was at UNF for 2 years. I was in the design program there. So,
Okay.
But that whole time I was freelancing. So I was working on projects. So my portfolio to get in the program was actually like all like paid client work, which is kind of funny, and I assume was rare for then. But yeah, that was, and then I graduated in 2006.
Okay.
So.
And after high school,
You can
where did
probably
you end
guess
up?
I didn't go to college.
Oh, okay.
I like to say that she dropped out of high school,
So,
which is sort of accurate.
No.
Yeah, he liked to say that because I think he thinks.
Oh,
it
you were on
sounds
the
cool.
express lane out of high school.
Yeah.
I'm getting yeah.
I basically had a year and a half of regular high school, and then I went and finished at a community college,
Okay.
and then got my GED, and that was enough for me. Everything I've ever wanted to do didn't require a degree, so that was never, like, I love learning, just the environment for school just did not work for my personality. So out of high school, I worked and did freelance photography was my outlet.
What kind of photography? Portrait? Weddings?
Personal stuff was more like creative.
Okay.
A lot of self-portraits, used myself. And then for work, I would do whatever, weddings. I shot a few weddings, family portraits, senior portraits, whatever. If someone wanted to give me money for it, which was just cool to me that people wanted to pay me to take photos. So that was what I did for a few years.
Okay. And so after school, did you work for anybody? And was there ever a point in the... Let's attack one at a time instead of asking both questions. So after school, you were freelancing through college. Did you go work for somebody or mentor, get a mentorship or internship somewhere?
So while I was in college, I worked, I think maybe 2 months as an intern at an ad agency in Jacksonville. And I think the day before I had to move, they offered me a job. I didn't take it. It was like peanuts based. I couldn't afford to live, you know. So I said no, came back to DeLand, and my parents let me stay with them. And then I started working for band merchandise companies to develop apparel for bands. So I did a lot of rock and roll bands that were big at the time. You know, think 2006, like whoever was big during.
So looking at your style and saying that, I'm going to say Black Rebel Motorcycle Club.
No, that would have been cool. No, it was a lot of like bands at like Hot Topic or that would do Warped Tour because those were the ones that were selling the most merch. I heard a figure the other day that Tim from Under Oath was making $50,000 a month or a quarter or a month off of royalties just from Hot Topic sales. That's just one guy from a band of 5 or whatever. that was probably like right around that same time.
Yeah.
So, there was a massive need for that. So that's what I did. But then that whole time I was working for a t-shirt company based in Boston called Johnny Cupcakes.
Oh.
So I was the head designer there for like 10 years, give or take.
I have met Johnny. I still have a fake cockroach in my house that he handed me. He was at Weapons of Mass Creation one of those years.
Right. Yeah.
And I met him and talked to him, and it's funny seeing me standing next to him because he is such a tiny dude.
Yeah.
And I still quote him a lot.
We're the same height, so cool.
Oh, sorry.
We really are,
but his like mantra, there was one thing I remember him talking about, like, he was like, I design a shirt, or he was like, I'd have a shirt, it would go out and we'd print and then it would be done. Mm-hmm. The whole limited model. And then he said, once that was done, it was gone. He was like, that kind of created this culture and this followership or friendship or fanship around us. And he's like, and then I found a box and I put them on eBay and made a lot of money. I was like, oh my God, I love that story so much. He was a super nice guy.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. Okay, so you went, but you were able to remote work from here, or did you move to Boston for a while?
So I worked remote. So I met him in 2003 through kind of the hardcore scene. And that was shortly after he started his t-shirt brand. Yeah. So he was selling that like at shows that his band was playing at, and then kind of grew from there. So I met him early 2003, started working for him, designed, his shirts, his website, everything. So I was a freelance employee, or I was a freelance worker of him, and then that turned into becoming an employee. So he hired me full time in 2007. So that from 2003 to 2007, I was freelance.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I made a lot of my money at during college.
Okay.
So a large part of my freelance was Johnny Cupcakes, and then hired me 2007. I worked full time till I think 2010 maybe. Then went part-time till 2013.
Okay.
And then ever since I've had my own studio.
And that's all been remote.
Yeah. So when I was, I had just 2007. So my grandfather was getting really ill. So I wanted to stay here and be with the family for that. And then I had a house built in 2009. So that kind of anchored me here. So that basically the stipulation early on was, I'll take this full-time job and I'll go up there as much as you want. Yeah. I just need to live here and be here with my family.
Right.
So yeah, that started 2007. So I would go up every other month for like two weeks at a time. And then sometimes it would be like longer or shorter breaks. So, it was all remote and it worked well. And that was before the wave of remote employees kind of, the Google model or whatever you want to call it kind of came around. But yeah, it worked out really well.
Okay. And so you're doing photography, plugging away. Was there ever a point to where you started working for somebody? Did that all just kind of take off and go? Or?
No, it eventually, I knew I always wanted to start my own business. Like anything I ever wanted to do was going to be something I would have full control over. Like I wanted to be creatively in control over something. But I did other odd jobs and interned at different places. And then I decided that I was in my early 20s and I was just like, I don't have like a ton of money to like start a business, but I have all of these ideas. But what could I do that I could start now with not having very much money? And so combining kind of some of my skills where I used to want to be a fashion designer. That was something I wanted to do because I could sew and loved clothes. So it was like, so I can sew and I can take good photos. So I decided that I would start selling vintage. And that was something that I could afford to do right away. And so I started an Etsy shop and that took off for me, where a year after starting my business, I was able to quit my job and work for myself full time. So then that's what I did until we started Hellcats.
Was that kind of in the budding days of social media to where you could use social media to kind of...
Yeah, it was really early into businesses using Instagram. Because at that point, Instagram had been around for a few years, but you were, just starting kind of seeing that.
Pre-algorithm.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And Etsy featured me as one of their featured shops, which is what really catapulted me. And yeah, made the world a difference, where I was able to then walk away from my job and work for myself full time. And then eventually I did start adding my own stuff that I was making myself, from wall hangings to necklaces to actual like clothing pieces.
Okay. So the style and aesthetic you all have, is that a marriage of both of your aesthetics, or is that leaning more on you as the designer?
It's
because I'm hearing the vintage part, and I'm like, man, this kind of fits, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it all came about because we started dating in 2014, and that was the year that I had gone working for myself full time, and so I had gone to a conference with him, and it was my first time being at like a design conference and like seeing this other side of like a creative community that I've never seen before. And when we came back, we were just kind of inspired, and I was just like, we kept talking about how we should collaborate on something together. Yeah. But our brands were so different because he was working freelance, but then had an online shop where he was selling some of his own stuff, and then obviously had my shop. And so we're trying to figure out, like, if we made something, would it fit in my brand, selling it in my shop? Not really, but we could sell it in Clark's shop, but then it didn't really fit his either. So over time, over the next like month or so, we kept coming up with different ideas. And then that's when we were like, let's just take these two sides of us and mesh them together and just create a whole new brand. And that made way more sense. That's what we did.
Okay. It's very, I don't, please feel free to kick me out if this is wrong. I was trying to explain to my friend who lives in St. Augustine. He's like, well, what's it like? And I was like, it feels like very cool, retro, old school motorcycle rider artwork. Like
that's not far. I mean, I think it's one of those things where you'd have to cut open our brains to see what we see it as. I have this theory that like, no matter what you do or no matter what you make, there's this like kind of like X factor, this variable that like you can't, really control, and that's what comes out. Unless you're just like a phenom, or like from birth, you could like play the piano exactly how you want to play, or guitar, whatever it is. So I think it's a translation of kind of our ideas put together. Okay. And, but all these variables at play, like what do we think will sell? What do we think is honest to us? What do we think, is going to be cool 5 years from now? Right. So, I think our inspirations kind of, I always say we pour our inspirations into a blender, and what pours out is Hellcats. Okay. So it's very much like, because I collect antiques, part of that is like vintage and antique advertising. So my brain always goes to like vintage, like matchbook cover, or old advertisement piece or keychain or something like that. So a lot of times it's this idea kind of put through what would this have looked like in like a cool motel, like a motel like ashtray or something. What would that logo look like?
Because there's some hotels up in St. Augustine that totally fit kind of the aesthetic. To where one of them we passed by, and I looked at my buddy, I was like, can I stay there next time I come down? He's like, it's kind of a shithole. Don't It's like, but it looks really cool.
Well, and what Clark was making on his own is, really amazing stuff, but a lot of it was pop culture themed, or like, one of his favorite 80s movies. And I told him when we were dating before we started Hellcats, was just like, I can look at this Ghostbusters poster that you made and see like, this is really great. Like, he was so talented in how he made this. I wouldn't hang it up in my house because that's just not my style. Right. And tapping into that home goods world where women will buy this stuff too. And he wasn't going to be able to do that as a man, fully make stuff that's going to speak to female. Right. So that was something that I knew we would be stronger together, because we would speak to the masses rather than just one gender. And not that women don't like the Ghostbusters posters too, but, just kind of more neutral things that aren't about a specific movie or something like that. But
yeah, back then I wasn't making products to sell products, if that makes sense. I was like, I was coming from this Johnny Cupcakes world and this like kind of street. I was working with other like streetwear brands and skate brands and stuff, and those I treated those as my brands. Those were my playgrounds to do whatever I wanted. So I didn't want a t-shirt brand. I didn't want another brand.
Right.
And I started doing these gallery shows, and that was my kind of like entrance into this world of selling products on my own. They had my stamp on them. And then when I started making my own products, like little patches and buttons and stickers and stuff like that, that was just like fun stuff that I wanted. If it didn't sell, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the longer I was doing that, the more it was so spread out and unbranded. It just didn't fully make any sense because I didn't care. You know, that's probably the quickest way to say it, is like it wasn't that big a deal to make money. And then I saw, you know, some of that stuff start to sell, and I saw the momentum there. And then shops would hit me up and be like, hey, do you have this in do you have this idea or like this kind of thing, but like an idea that we can sell?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I could wholesale this stuff to customers, but none of it made sense. None of it was branded well. It wasn't meant to. And then when we kind of collaborated on the idea, we worked backwards. We had an idea of what we wanted to make, how we wanted to present it.
Yeah.
And like what we basically like took this formula together and made a brand out of it. So we kind of knew what we were doing when we started, and we've, I think, continued that. And it's not far off from the stuff that I was selling, but it was an idea, and it had a direction, and it was smart, and it was buyable.
Okay.
I feel like our difference in how we work is that Clark is a creative who just happened to become an entrepreneur, but have more of the entrepreneur brain that just happens to also be creative, where he loves making stuff but isn't necessarily like, you know, like he just started making stuff to sell because he made this cool poster and was like, well, people want it, so I'll sell it.
Yeah.
Or me, I'm like, I want to build a business because that's my dream. And I think us coming together with him having such a great creative side that I can totally trust him on that, and our tastes are similar enough where I can look at something he made and like, perfect, you like took an idea out of my head and made it better than what I thought. And then I have the brain to kind of push the business to another level that he would be like satisfied with it, not because he's just enjoying drawing these pictures, you know, and being an artist.
Yeah. This, so do you all know, was there like a moment or a spark that this came out of, or was this something that just kind of seeped in over time? Were you all somewhere and it was like, holy crap, this is what we should be doing?
I think it was maybe within a month time, like we said, we were wanting to collaborate on one thing. And then we were thinking like this art print. We're like, oh, but what if then we did this? And what if we did this? And then I think we were just driving down the road one day and we brought up another idea of something we could make. And then I think I was the one that just said, well, why don't we just make a whole new brand? And Clark, kind of matter of fact, was just like, yeah, like it just right in that moment. And then we didn't hesitate. We weren't like going back and forth on, should we do it? Should we not do it? We were then like, okay, what's its name going to be?
Yeah.
And then, you know, took a couple weeks trying to figure it out and workshop names until we drove by a street that was called Hellcats Lane. And we're like, that's a cool name. Like Clark pointed it out. And I immediately was like, yes. That totally, I feel like you hear the name and you're immediately going to get the feel of our vibe right away.
Mm-hmm. And then you immediately go, is it available on social?
Exactly.
Yes, actually did. Then that was the next thing, was like, yeah, let me see who else has this name on Instagram.
Yeah, I remember it as, or when I at least think back to it, maybe I reconfigured it in my brain, is I remember getting like one or two emails about my product line being like, hey, we love to carry it. Do you have this, you know, like I said before, do you have this thing in a different whatever to where it makes sense? And I could just tell that they were struggling with my product line.
Yeah.
And I got it. I was like, yeah, like I get why you would feel that way. And then Brittany, she was making these hand-painted shawls, like cutting them, sewing them, painting them, and they cost so much to make. It cost like, how much were they?
I sold them for $95, and
they cost like $20 or $30 to
like
make.
$35, something like that.
So,
and then my time.
Yeah, her time,
them.
like the raw materials, it was just so much. So she would get an order for like 5. It's like, cool, now we have to drop like $150 just to make these things.
Yeah.
Or whatever the price was. But that's when we were like, hey, new idea, because she was making these like wall hangings. So I was like, let's do a screen print like skeleton. She's got a black skeleton tattoo on her forearm. I love skeletons. I had this sticker and button that said draw skulls. So it's like, we're into dark shit. Let's make something dark.
On our second date, this was a test. I told him that I someday want to own like a human skull, because I was like, if that freaks him out, then we're not gonna be a match. And apparently that's what like sold him on me. So
yeah, I was like, marry me. She's like, what? Nothing.
That would be funny on Tinder. It's like, into long walks, kind of a foodie, want to own a human skull.
Yeah.
What was that last one?
Yeah.
Long walks. No, the one after that, foodie. No.
Well, it worked.
So we were literally, I was going to screen print, like a piece of canvas wall hanging. It was like a black skeleton, you know? And then I think that was the first product that kicked it off to like, let's do something. But we took we don't want to get like products that cost a ton of money. So we'll start small products that cost us $3 each, $1 each, or whatever.
Right.
So we took all these things, like I said, it was a formula that we like worked backwards from. And that's kind of what came together. And the more we like started making, the more our tone and like the voice of what we were doing kind of came to fruition.
Well, basically, I feel like this was kind of our mission, was that we like stuff that's a little bit darker.
Right.
But we don't want to be another brand that's just like dark and negative or dark and gloomy. We wanted to show the other side too, where maybe we look intimidating to come up to because we're wearing a lot of black and we have tattoos. But when you talk to us, you're like, oh, like Clark will show you a magic trick. And he's so friendly and so warm. And so just trying to show like, oh, you can be into this darker aesthetic, but still be like a fun, happy, positive person. So that's what we try to do with all the products, is kind of mix the dark and the light, the feminine and the masculine, and have it be also like cute, but then there's a skeleton. Right. And so if you like the stuff we like, you're going to relate to it, but you hopefully won't be too intimidated or feel like it's too cool for you. So that was kind of like what we were trying to do with the products.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm 6'7", 285. Nobody's terrified of me. They're all terrified of me.
Yeah.
Except for drunk women. Drunk women are very... I've been to a lot of beer festivals where they've got sticky beer hands, and they start rubbing my beard. I'm like, no.
Sick. Personal space.
Yeah. Or start rubbing my chest. I'm like, please stop.
No.
Please stop. You're making me
my
uncomfortable.
nightmare.
Where are you going?
Yeah. Well, club. No. No, one of them was I was shooting photos. Hey, I'm a CBS man. No, no, one of them was a nonprofit, does this. I'm not going to name the nonprofit. Oops, I almost did that. Did that. That would not be good. It was an all-women nonprofit event where they sold some goods that they got donated, and a lot of women went to it. Now, my friend who's listening to this knows exactly what I'm talking about. I already told her this story. I'm just not going to name them. A lot of older drunk women, and one lady literally pushed me into a wall, rubbing my chest. And I just put my hands in my pockets. I was just like, please save me. Please help me. Oh, my God. I'm so uncomfortable right now.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to remember the name of the band. I feel like it would fit in. What was the hell was that band? It was mid-2000s or mid-2010s, early 2010s. A gal lead singer and a guy that did like...
The White Stripes?
Who?
Dead Weather?
No. Crap. It was kind of like heavy and big, but she sounded... Sleigh Bells.
Oh, yeah.
That feels very... I think they would love your old stuff.
Yeah, let's hit them up.
Yeah.
I don't know where they went. I thought about them like a month ago. It's like, man, they were super hot, and I really liked that music for a while. And it's like, where did they go?
Yeah.
They just kind of disappeared.
The guitarist was in this metalcore band, Poison the Well, which is interesting.
Oh,
and now
I've heard
like
of Poison the Well.
Kind of touring again, which I don't know if he's still in that band. But yeah, they made a couple records, I feel like, and disappeared. Sleigh Bells, that is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, but you pour like what we're into a blender, hit frappe and pour it out. That's Hellcats. You know, and I like to think if you look at like Johnny Cupcakes, you can see where my brain was thinking back then. You know, some of like the Swiss and like Japanese influence, like American rock and roll. You know, like you said, kind of biker culture. The thing is, like, we're not bikers at all, but you take the same lexicon that they're working within. You know, like spades and like daggers and like angels and devils or whatever, and then you put it on something black, that's what it's gonna look like, even though we're not related.
Well, I think about even like that Rock and Roll Fever shirt, to where it looks, you know, I think a weird thing about their stuff is a lot of that retro-y stuff, it doesn't have and that may have super hard edges, but it's almost like an R looks like you almost went with an eraser and kind of touched around the edges to where it's not like
it's like
ruler.
Smoothed out. It's like, you know, we, like Brittany was kind of alluding to, is like, the thing is we're safe. Like and I know this sounds silly because we're talking about like a brand that sells like stickers and patches and shit, right? It's like, you know,
don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, exactly. But there are a lot of brands out there that are, you know, like Fuck the World, or like they're, you know, they just have like the hard angle of like, don't like, unapproachable, mean, rude, whatever, and that stuff's like kind of fun and cool or whatever. It's just not who we are as people. It's not honest. And I think what's really important if you have a brand is to be honest, and to, or if it's just like a facade, that is what it is. But for us, we like to be, what you see is what you get. And we're into dark stuff, but we're also nice people. So we have a fun, safe,
How
dark
is that
brand.
not the tagline?
Exactly.
We're into dark stuff, but we're nice people.
Yeah,
exactly. So you know, the most important part, I think, of who we are as a brand is to be like honest to ourselves. If we're not that, then we're like selling something that if we're going after something just because we know it sells. I could make so much money by doing like little buttons or pins or patches that are like knockoffs of, or like flips on like logos. You know, you take the Supreme logo and you make it say Subway. You know,
I've
whatever.
got a Miller High Life shirt. It looks exactly like the Miller High Life logo, but it says "Mama tried."
Yeah,
you know, and that was a Facebook targeted ad. I was like, God, they actually know me really well. I'll take one of those.
Yeah. But yeah, you can take something that's like a lyrical reference like that and like flip it with whatever logo you want. You can make money doing that all day. People do that.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. We have friends that do that. We support them. We dig that. We like that.
And people want that. So.
And people want it. Yeah. And if you can sell, make money, hey, go for it. That's just, when we started out, we were like, hey, we're going to start something that's like, these products aren't going to have a reference to a Beyonce song or whatever. It's going to be like an idea that we have, even if it's like going off of, you know, like there's no real new ideas, but not taking someone's like IP, like their intellectual property, and making profit off of that as much as we're going to make something that's honest to ourselves. You know, like, don't tell me to smile is like,
I mean,
women have them told that all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was just something I thought of just from my own personal experience. I didn't really think much of it other than like, maybe some women will want a sticker that said, don't tell me to smile. Yeah. And then realizing how many women, like I'm really obviously not the only one that experiences that. And it's become such a big product that we reuse it over and over again.
Yeah, and I see a lot of that. Like, there's a woman in Cleveland, Ohio, Snakes and Aces, that she does shirts, and she does a lot. But she started doing some shirts that are like, the fact that this is going to sound like I'm putting on airs, and I'm not putting on airs because I know I'm a big schlubby dude. But she was like, I want you to model. I'm like, I want a big dude wearing a shirt that's like, Men Can Cry Too, or stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I saw you have the tote, so I know the Planned Parenthood. I know her. She came through Knoxville when it was still Yeehaw Letterpress.
Yeah.
I got her to come through Knoxville because it was weird. She was going to Nashville and then Asheville, and she had 2 days empty between. I was like, you're literally going to be passing.
Yeah.
It's right here.
Yeah.
She's like, okay. So when she was doing the traveling letter press.
she was going to come here, the Power and Light Press.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really cool.
I always blank on her name because
I believe her name is Kevin. Or Kyle?
Kyle.
Shoot.
Because it's a dude's name.
Yeah, it's like it's a K name. Yeah, she ordered some of our stuff to carry in her shop in New Mexico.
Awesome. But she was telling me about those totes. She was like, that blew up to a level that I had.
That's the second one I bought, too.
She was like, I had no idea. I ended up buying a bunch, just a stack of them to give to friends.
Yeah, cool.
I almost gave one to my little sister. I was like, you can't fight. I'm going to take this back. It was like, you will let someone take this from you. I'm going to take this back. And it's like, I know you believe this on the inside.
Luckily, I get more compliments on my Planned Parenthood bag. I've never had anyone say anything negative, but it's funny because I'll forget that I have it on my shoulder and someone will be like, oh, I love your bag. And I'm like, oh, thanks. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, because I'm realizing they're liking the message on there.
Some dude in Alabama.
That was cool.
That was funny.
Yeah, it was nice that in Alabama, a male is the one that was just like, oh, I love your bag.
You never know.
It's like, good for you.
Yeah. My friend, so I've been working on trying to figure out, listen to y'all is amazing because I keep trying to think of something, but it's the same thing. I can't distill it down to, I can do so many different things because I've worked in printing and print shops where I've had to be versatile to do so many different things to where I've really struggled to find my own thing. But I did
What do you mean?
Like my own style or something that is very distinctive as me.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's been really hard. But one thing I made T-shirts of, it's kind of an inside joke. It's the Waffle House logo, but it says Feral Giant.
That's cool.
On the shirt. And it's like a vintage, baseball,
like
ringer shirt. And it's like a light tan, yellowy color. And one of my the friend in St. Augustine has it. And he's like, dude, I wear that out. And people are like, what is that? And I was like, well, you can buy them from this guy. We've got I keep plugging them as much as humanly possible, a T-shirt printing company in Knoxville called Borderland Tees. Reverend Jenny and Bob has been printing T-shirts for 40 to 50 years. Mm. They employ homeless people and pay them a living wage in order to get them up off the street.
That's in Knoxville, you said?
Yep. And even though she's Reverend Jenny, they printed all the Knox Pride shirts. They are very hardcore, progressive.
Cool.
And they're awesome. Which leads me to, did you start out doing your own printing or pulling your own screens or anything, or was it always find a good vendor to maintain quality and all that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I have a screen printing background as much as I taught myself how to do it.
Okay.
I'm a tinkerer. I love learning stuff.
Yeah.
So I built a whole flat stock printing setup in my house, I guess 6 years ago or so. And just kind of went for it. So when we launched the company, we tried to start it debt free with as little of our own cash. So we did a Kickstarter. We raised $3,800 for our first round of products, and part of us it's kind of a double-edged sword, or not a double-edged sword, but two sides of a coin. Is that one, we could kind of make stuff for cheap. Yeah. And I just love making my own stuff, right? So
it's fun to be able to say you made it in-house, printed by us.
Right. So we have at any given time we have 1 to 4 products that we make in-house ourselves.
Okay.
Brittany makes our candles here in the studio. That's one of our biggest sellers.
Okay.
But we got to a point with the screen prints that the amount of time, I don't know how much you've messed with screen printing, it's my dad who's a sign painter has a phrase. He said, screen printing is either a business that you're in or you're out of. Yeah. And it's it's pretty accurate in that the amount of time that it takes us to do a full print run is such a pain in the ass, and we don't have space anymore to do it. It's cheaper for us for what we have to get paid, for our time, than it would be just to hire someone. So Mom and Saw, so you just went and saw.
Yeah.
They do our screen prints now.
Okay. That's my friend David Harmon in Knoxville. He's originally from Texas, but he has this thing called native maps, to where it's like
it's
like an outline of the county, and then it has little bitty blocks listed of the city, and then it's like Knoxville. He's probably got one for Orlando, but he prints a lot of them. If you've been over there, you've seen it.
Yeah,
because they've run test prints and stuff. But
I feel like I met that guy.
And he pulls his own a lot, but he started getting into printing on like metallic paper or using metallic ink. He's like, nope, and he just contacted Nick and was like, I'm gonna let y'all handle it.
Yeah, it's like slick.
Yeah.
It's just, it's so much work that it's like, do we, like, at what point are we like spending money, more money to do this?
Frustration.
Or you're throwing, realistically, you're throwing away a lot of paper and a lot of ink if you're not dialing it in. And all our product has to be like really dialed in for us to be like proud of it. So, not anymore do we screen print.
Well, I'm thinking like the guy I showed you, Stas Serigraph Justin. He was printing out of his garage forever, and then he hit a point where he was like, this was a great problem to have. He's like, I'm having to spend too much time designing. I don't have time to print anymore.
Yeah.
So then he started using half and half, and I think he's used Mama's Sauce before. He was like, it's much more beneficial to outsource that. And he was like, and now I don't have to worry about how many colors and stuff. It's like, I can go whole hog because I don't have to worry about, I'm going to have to make so many screens when I get home. Yeah. The more colors you have, obviously, the more screens you have, but the more likely you're going to ruin one of your prints. If you have 7 colors, the first 2 are like easy to put down. The third gets a little harder. Fourth, fifth, sixth, something's off register. You just wasted a print that could be worth $50. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's when I was printing on an AB Dick 800 press. It's a 1 color in high school. And it was like, okay, they need 500 business cards. Okay, cool. I'm going to run like 2,000.
Yeah.
So I'm on this crappy old machine. Yeah. Then I was like, if I got to run 2 colors, I was like, okay, if I get this registered, that's going to be awesome. If I go 3 colors, that's going to be a miracle.
Yeah,
if I can get it done. Okay, now I'm going to go super weird and technical for the geeks. So you start out in Etsy. When you built out the site for your sales portal, I'm going to use all the MBA terms when I start talking sales channels, sales funnels. So do y'all use do you continue using Etsy a lot or Shopify?
Our website's on Squarespace.
Oh, so it's your own. Because Harmon with Native Maps, he switched from Etsy to Shopify because now he said it's almost like or Squarespace where you can build it to where it looks like he hired a coder to build out the site.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of functions. I mean, this could be a whole separate podcast, but we would use Shopify if we needed everything. I mean, it just would cost us more to run Shopify than it's really worth. Right. And our site's already with Squarespace.
And I understand Squarespace, where I can go on the back end and completely redo our site. But if we move to another platform, that sounds like such a headache to figure all that out.
I need to record an ad. Y'all doing an ad for Squarespace right now. Now I'll send it to him to sell. I'll give you an honest 3%.
If you want to send a payment to us, our address is.
I always joke one of my buddies, a photographer, and I end up pitching him to so many people. And I was like, all I ask is for my standard 85% cut.
Yes, exactly.
I feel like it's fair. He's a buddy. If you want to go down a rabbit hole, he is an editorial photographer. It's oddly enough, WKU has one of the best editorial photography programs in the country.
Cool.
And he went to Western Kentucky U along with some other people. He's been Pulitzer nominated. Now he's getting into going down the rabbit hole of talk about doing your own thing. He's doing large format, medium format. Cool. We have this is just all one big sales pitch for Knoxville. We have a community dark room. This should be a drinking game.
Do you, your city?
I need to do a drinking part at the beginning of this. Every time I pitch Knoxville, you got to take a drink. It's not owned by the city. It's just a collective that did it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You pay, I think it's $300 a year, and all you have to do is buy your own paper and stuff to print on, but they handle chemicals. And he was like, $300 a year to not have to worry about, are my chemicals out of date?
Yeah.
Getting new chemicals, disposing of chemicals,
having
which
the
is
space
terrifying.
studio to do that.
Luckily, him and his wife own their own creative space to where he could, but he would have to close down a bathroom for anybody, you know, and hook up red light, all this stuff. He's like, nope. He's like, this is a piece of, same thing. It's not doing the printing to where he's like, I don't want to have to worry about this. I can go over there. It's just around the corner. I can print all I want.
Well, and really, if we had the space in here and this was an industrial space, which it's not, like we might have a little spot if we need to do something small or whatever. And we're not crossing that out for the future, but just as it is now, if we're getting a run of however many 100 prints, are we going to do it or someone else is going to do it? We're going to get someone else to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that vein, the expansion. So you start out, did you kind of start out with, was it printing goods, patches?
Mm-hmm.
Like what was on the initial Kickstarter line?
We had a handful of lapel pins, patches, stickers, art prints, bandanas.
Okay.
Am I missing anything?
Pencil packs, maybe?
Pencil pack. Yeah, we did have pencil packs. I want to say
and
that.
Cards. Like
yeah, we had some stationery cards too. I think
it's a
that
little
was
smattering of it, which is still what it is, because it's not like we're one specialized shop, and we try and keep it open.
Yeah, we never wanted to put ourselves in a box where we can't make something. We want to feel the freedom that we can grow this into whatever we want.
Okay.
Lifestyle brand, I feel like, is a little bullshitty of a term these days, but like that's probably what someone would kind of compare it to.
Yeah.
But I like to think it's more like art-based goods.
Yeah.
Keep it a little more general, because everything we have has art that we made tied to it. And
Well, I think there's a lot of people out there that are doing that, like Draplin, Cupcakes, Lisa Congdon. God, I can't remember. Congdon. Please forgive me for not pronouncing that correctly. Like you're buying into their aesthetic or their idea. Mm-hmm. Do you all follow like trends and see what you think is going to be interesting next, or do you kind of follow your own way?
I think we try to keep our blinders on when it comes to like trends. We just think of what do we like, what do we think is going to be cool. I mean, that's what we've been doing this whole time, and what we want to keep doing, and just hoping that people like the same stuff we like. So trying to do that, and I feel like it's been working.
Yeah. Part of that is we don't have a sales calendar. We don't have, we don't have to hit a certain, season to get wholesale, whatever. And I think the other part is like, when we started this thing out, it was like, we're going to be honest to ourselves, what we like.
Yeah. And
it's very easy to get into a trap where it's like, let's do something that's not really like our vibe, but we know it'll sell. Man, trust me, when that stuff doesn't sell, that feels really bad.
Yeah.
When it does sell, you're not being truthful to yourself.
Right.
And if we're going to be doing podcasts and talking, we're going to Raleigh in a few days to talk about our brand. If we're up there and we're like lying about something we're into and we're not, and we're just up there, it's like just snake oil kind of shit that we're not interested in. And we're kind of in it for the long game. You know, and there's a lot of ways you can take it to play the short game and get like quick money, and that's usually a path to failure, like pretty soon down the road, I think.
Yeah, I think we just think of, what do we use on a regular basis, or stuff that we're into, and then how can we flip that on its head and make it us. And like the candles, I knew I wanted to do candles since we started, and eventually do that, and now we do, and we kind of figured out how can we make this unique than just like a candle that you can buy a candle anywhere. What makes you want to buy ours that's special? And so our candles are Fortune scratch off candles. So on the front label, on the bottom, there is a scratch off, and you get a lucky penny that comes on the top, and you use that scratch off your fortune. And then we like to say when you burn your candle, like your fortune will come true. So it's just like this fun little added thing to, okay, I want this candle because it smells good, but I also love the label and love that it has a little interactive aspect to it, and it's different. Like, when have you seen that? We've never seen it, and it's one of our best selling products.
Do you think, and I don't want this to come off flippant, I actually love this term, Do you think also this brand is an opportunity to chase whimsy a little bit? To be like, I want to do candles. How can we make it fit for us that it will be interesting or cool? And if it doesn't work, then screw it.
Yeah,
right?
I don't really even feel like if something doesn't work, I don't count it as a failure. It's like we got that out of our system.
Or
now
it
move
was
on
a
to the
learning
next thing.
experience.
Yeah.
What do you mean by, I haven't heard that term before.
Chasing whimsy?
Yeah.
So that comes from Kevin Smith, to where he was like the movie did Tusk, he and his partner Scott Mosier have a podcast, Smodcast. They're doing it. They were reading the story out of Canada, and it's about this guy who posted a listing that said, free room and board, stay in my house, but you have to wear a walrus costume X amount of hours per month. So they just went down a rabbit hole of what that would be like.
Oh, yeah.
And then at the end of it, he was like, I feel like this needs to be a movie. And he was like, tag me on Twitter, walrus yes or walrus no. And if there's more yeses, then I'll actually make this as a movie. Yeah. And he made it as a movie. And it's creepy, and then it gets kind of goofy at the end when he actually puts on the costume. But he was like, I made that movie because I wanted to chase whimsy, and because I knew if I didn't do it, no one else would. And I wanted to see that movie. So I love that term, chasing whimsy, of like, I thought about that. I kind of missed an opportunity. One of our big malls closed down, and I was, they closed down before I could get to do it. I was working with a modern dance troupe, and I was going to take them, and we were going to go in there, and there was like this kids play area that was super weird, and that had like a carpet, and then it had these little, almost like, you see the crappy like plastic little tykes thing in people's yards, but it was made out of like wood in the middle of the mall. Like, it was super weird. I was like, I want you all to develop a dance on that, and I want to shoot it. And then I can use it as, a cool film experiment. You all can use it to show what all, and they were excited. They were like, holy crap, this is so outside of their comfort zone to do it like that, as opposed to on a stage. Yeah. That we started working on developing it, and they started working on something, then they closed the mall, and we couldn't do it. I consider that chasing whimsy.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to pay me for that. Totally. It was just like, I just want to make it because it would be interesting. Yeah. I just want to make candles because I'm interested in making candles.
Yeah, I would say no. No, I mean,
That's a long way around. Totally. I'm gonna just get Kurt to cut all that middle part. I was like, nah.
No, I love that term, and I think we maybe do that in other aspects of our life. But like, we look at this brand as a way to make cash, right? Okay. And part of that is making product first. Like Brittany said, first it's like, would we use this product? Would we be in this, and would we buy it? Yeah. From what I understand, from what you're saying, chasing whimsy is it's a little more like flippant than like, we'll just see how it goes.
I think it's more of like, I have an idea. I think it is a little bit, because it's a little bit like, would I wear this? Would I make this? If I don't make this, no one else is going to make this.
Oh yeah. For sure.
So I feel a little scotch, just a little scotch totally. Of like, no, this is what I want. So, yeah.
And it's not that big of a risk, right? Yeah. It's like, if we do a print run, like, is it going to put us into bankruptcy? No. You know what I mean? If no one likes this one thing, it's not going to end the whole thing for us. So I'd say it's like calculated chasing whimsy.
Oh my God. Okay, so now
the
homework is, I'm going to make a chasing whimsy piece of art. You make a calculated whimsy piece of art. No, we'll just slide them back and forth. Yeah. Okay. With all of that, are there other things you all are thinking about? Like, what is something maybe outside of what's on the wall that, not saying you have to say, but are you always kind of thinking of what could be something to add to the portfolio?
We definitely have like a dream list of products that we just like can't afford to make yet, or even don't have the space to even like hold it in our studio yet.
A flying car.
Well, I was thinking like the banners. I think you all and what is that one? There's some kind of Oxford thing.
Yeah, Oxford Pennant.
Oxford Pennant are the only two that I'm like, those are only two names that come to mind.
Well, they made our banners.
Oh, okay.
Our friend Jenna Blazevich, she chain stitched the one behind you.
Yeah. Yeah, she's good.
Took a while, but I think there's products. We went to an antique show 2 weekends ago, and I saw this thing there, and it gave me a new idea for a product, and I've kind of been thinking about that thing ever since. And it's not like a huge money making thing, but it's this. So this is probably going towards chasing the whimsy. Is like it was this like cool little idea that I've never seen anybody really do in this kind of way that we're probably gonna do. So inspiration strikes us like sometimes when we're not thinking about it, but more often than not, we're really trying to like tackle like, does this fit in our product line? Do people buy it? Are we sold out of this thing? Do we need to create a new version of that? But for the most part, like it took me a while to get to a place to want to do apparel, because that's the background I come from. I'm tired of it. Whatever. Coincidentally, T-shirts do really well.
That's like all people want. They're constantly asking. It took us a while to come out with our first T-shirt, and now it's like as soon as we're out, are you going to make new T-shirts, or we'll have a new design? Oh, you guys should put this on a T-shirt. So that is one thing where we're trying to deliver to what people want.
The only thing I would say is hoodies.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
That's on the list.
Because, hell, so I left Knoxville last Friday. It was 25 degrees when I left. And I got to St. Augustine, it was 62 degrees. And I get down here, it's 80. It's like, nope, too far. I got to go back up. But like Mama Sauce has that one that looks like a sriracha. And I said, please make a hoodie for me. Please. I want like a big I call it grown folk size, 3XL like hoodie to wear.
3XL.
Like T-shirts are just, I try, but I'm too long torso. I only, this is going to maybe amaze, maybe TMI, I only wear a 34 in pants. But like I am an extra tall in the only reason I get these shirts is I'm buying them at JCPenney and they're extra tall.
Yeah.
But everything else, I'm like, no, I just have a long torso.
Yeah.
And nobody needs to see this.
You can't see him, but he's 8'7".
I met Charles Barkley. I'm taller than Charles Barkley.
Wow.
That's all I'm going to say. I met him in Atlanta at Cam Newton's cigar shop.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah. And he did a double take. He was like, oh, shit. And I was like, he's like, hey, how's it going? I was like, good. Holy shit, you're Charles Barkley. You're Charles Barkley. So just hypothetical. So candles are the biggest seller. What if tomorrow you're like, I'm tired of making these? Will you just stop? Or do you think this may get more into the calculated side of like, you know what, we just need to keep doing this because it's making money?
No, I would still make them. I mean, there are, like, some of our products definitely, like, lose the sparkle because you've seen them so many times. But people love them, and when we get out of stock on certain things, people are like, when are you getting this back? When are you getting this back? And there's certain things that we plan on not bringing back, that we're sold out, and we're just like, that's it on that product. And there's other products that we will continue to restock. I think if I ever really got bored with the candles, then it would maybe be like add a new scent to it, you know, change it somehow to make it something new. But yeah, I mean, that's just a part of work, I guess. Sometimes you're just not going to always enjoy the thing you're working on, but you got to keep doing it.
Or would that kind of be a point to be like, okay, let's figure out a vendor for this to where it's the same thing, to where it's like, I don't have to worry about this, but this can still earn us income.
Yeah, I'm too much of a control freak to let anyone else make our stuff.
It's good you're not a designer, because with design, I feel like there's some pieces I've worked on, I'm like, I won't know it's done till it's done. Like, I just got to keep tweaking at it until there was one band poster I did to where I finally hit a point where I had like 20 layers on top. I was like, okay, I'm done. And then just close the windows. Like, I can't do this anymore. I'm too,
I think other than like getting art prints printed by like Mama Sauce or having our T-shirts printed by somebody, I think I would always like to keep stuff as in-house and as close to us as possible, that we have our hands in on it. Even if we grow, say I'm too busy and I can't be making the candles all the time, I want to have an employee that I have trained that can make them here rather than somebody outside. Or, you know, if we decide that we want to print in studio, where we have an employee that then is printing for us in the studio, so we still have the control to like check things and make sure that our hand's still in it, then letting someone else have control.
Okay. Let's see. Has your dad seen the Sign Painters documentary?
Yeah, I took him to see it when it screened here in Orlando.
How did he feel? I've heard some people that were sign painters got very pissed off, saying they didn't talk to the right people And then I talked to the people who made it, and they're like, yeah, we only had so much time and money. We couldn't, find every single person.
I don't really remember. I remember him having a positive view of it. I mean, he definitely, because he like knew some of those people and stuff. I think it's interesting because the whole sign painting thing, this is a fairly new revolution in terms of like designers being into it, because it was a trade forever, and now it's like a cool, like when I tell designers now, oh yeah, my dad's a sign painter, their eyes light up.
Yeah.
If I would have told designers, 15 years ago, you would have heard, oh cool.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, can he come teach a lettering class or whatever?
Hell yeah.
So I think in some aspects, sign painter, that made them visible for the first time for people. Before that documentary and that book came out, they weren't that visible.
No.
Now it's a Pinterest tag or whatever. Yeah.
There's a guy in Knoxville. It's like 80. God, he's got to be like 83, 84 at this point. And Stripe Light, one of the letterpress shops, they had him come and paint their sign. And it was in an old auto body shop.
Yeah.
And he was there doing it. There were two things that stood out. Number one, he had done the auto body shop sign that's still up.
Oh, cool.
He had hand painted that. And the other thing was he had to keep going up on the ladder. He left his paint in the truck. He would go up the ladder, paint a little bit, come down, get some more paint, go back up.
What?
And he kept doing, and he was like 81 when he did that.
The hell? That's crazy.
Sarah was like, what the hell? Do you need water? Like, what are you, do I need to stand here and hold it? And he's like, no, I got it.
Yeah.
And she was like, what? And she was like, he never had business cards. So she was like, I just printed him up some business cards on the letterpress.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there were some people that had some negative. I was like, that was a great documentary. Like, I was in Asheville recently seeing a couple bands and walked by and saw this place getting renovated, and then saw that it was like an old appliance store that had like freezer, refrigerator, all that, hand paint signs. I was like, damn it, those are just going to get painted over. I was like, I want to take those. I'm just going to come back with a hammer and take those damn things. And one of my friends was like, if you go back over there and say, if I remove those, can I take them? They'll probably let you do it.
Yeah, no, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're doing them a favor.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't have to get up there and do that. But
I think that's about all I have, other than recommending a band. What kind of metal? What kind of metal are you into?
I mean, I'm like kind of all over the place. I like power metal. I like
sludge.
I like death metal. Yeah, some. I mean, like doom. Like I love like doom death.
Yeah.
Which is a
then
genre
this may not be your thing.
Death metal.
There's a Nashville band called All Them Witches. It's almost like a sludgy blues based.
Oh, that's cool.
They're like a lighter version of the Sword, I guess would be a good way to put it.
No, I mean I love that. Like I love I don't like all the New Orleans kind of bands.
Oh yeah.
Like that stuff's rad. It's not what I tend to listen to because I'm a little like I don't know if ADHD is the right word. I'm constantly like drumming fast, so it's hard for me to slow down. But I love groove metal, so it's not too far off.
See, I get into like some of the post metal stuff like Pelican and ISIS, which is an unfortunately title name.
Yeah, you can't wear their shirt anymore.
No. And what about you? What kind of music are you into?
Don't listen to the same music that Clark listens to. So
you saw the earbuds when you walked in.
have to wear headphones when we're in the studio together. I always like to say that I listen to sad folk music. Folk music's my favorite.
I got lots of bands for you.
I like to say that she listens to bands where the singer sounds like a cartoon bear.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh my God. Okay. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That needs to be a piece of art, like a cartoon bear with like a tear,
like a country bear jamboree
guitar.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's Wonderwall. That's
exactly.
The bands I saw in Nashville you would probably like. It was Daughter of Swords, which sounds like a metal band.
Yeah, that's a cool
but
name.
she was amazing. And I can't remember the dude's name, but it was essentially one of those where it's one person, but then they had a band backing them up. And when she played, he backed her up on like pedal, good steel. They were great. They were both great. There's a lot of sad folk music over there. Yeah. So I got both of you. Yeah. I'm trying to think. One of my friends who lives in Asheville, she always posts to me. She's a lead singer of I don't even know what kind of metal you would call it, but they're always, it's one of the ones where you can't read the name because it just looks like dead tree branches.
Yeah, I mean, it could be black metal or death metal.
Yeah, that's what she's into, and that's what she plays. I'm like, and then she goes on some cruise, at some death metal cruise. It's called like 7,000 pounds or something like that, and she wears a Cthulhu, however you pronounce that, blue onesie, and just goes around and sings death metal.
Nice.
What the fuck? Okay. All right, enough about me. Come to Knoxville. It'd be awesome.
Yeah. Shows all the food joints.
Yeah.
And I actually have an idea that I will talk off mic, but is there anything I missed before we go? That y'all, any parting ways to, if somebody wanted to decide to do their own brand, what would be the first thing you think they should do?
I mean, I always say start with your story. You know, start with what you're into and who you are as a person, because that's the best product you have is your story. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Save your money.
Save beer money?
Save your money.
Oh, I think you said save beer money.
That
I was like,
too.
oh, hell. Okay.
That helps too.
Thank y'all for doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.